lot of folks don't want to spend the money up front in hiring an attorney, and a lot of real estate attorneys like our office are transactional. We don't require payment in advance, but there are certain questions and understandings that need to come from a legal professional. So first and foremost is completing a sales disclosure. So Rhode Island general law does require that we have a sales disclosure completed. Need it done prior to the signing of the purchase and sales guide. So this should be one of the first things that as sellers are provided to you by a listing agent. Mm-hmm. And if you're brave enough to go with a for sale by owner, that you have at least somehow accessed those sales disclosures, because Rhode Island state law does require this. If you become aware of any defects throughout the course of your sale, or the buyer has a home inspection that makes you aware of any defects throughout the course of that, you are obligated as a seller to make sure that those defects are now listed on the sales disclosure. There are some exceptions to the home sales disclosure requirements that every once in a while we get this question, do I have to do it? I've never even lived in the property. Mm-hmm. Well, the reality is yes, there's only certain exclusions. One is if you're acting in a true fiduciary responsibility. So if you have someone who's passed away and you're handling an estate sale or a sale on behalf of a trust, then in that case you may not be required to take it. But if you're on title with your mom or dad, they've passed on, and now you have to sell their house, you've never lived in this house, you still have an obligation to complete this because you're not in a true fiduciary role, you were a co-owner.
Okay.
So in that case, again, the pre-listing home inspection becomes a really critical tool because those folks didn't know enough about the house to meaningfully fill these documents out. So transitioning from the preparation is for sellers to understand what the costs are going to be associated with selling their home. And I'm sure, Emilio, you as all good agents will prepare a net sheet or a breakdown of the numbers so that sellers know what their bottom line is going to be.
Yes. Yep.
So often we are working with clients who didn't have the opportunity to do that, especially if they're for sale by owner and they don't understand how tax stamps work. Mm-hmm. These are basically sales tax. And again, it's mandated by the state of Rhode Island at a cost of $4.60 per thousand based on your sales price. Mm-hmm. It's required. Also adjusting for real estate taxes. Most communities in Rhode Island are 6 months or more in arrears on taxes. So you have to reconcile the outstanding tax liability, making the necessary credits to the buyer, adjusting for final water and sewer bills, being aware of any kinds of repairs or closing cost credits that need to be allocated at the table, come right off the top, your mortgage balance, what do you really owe versus what your statement shows.
Yeah.
Oftentimes can be a discrepancy, especially if we have folks who have fallen behind in their mortgage payments. Mm-hmm. Identifying what the commissions are, the attorney's fees. That's just to name, a few of the top items, which again, I think really highlights the need to have legal representation and good real estate agent representation to understand and explain to these homeowners what the expenses are so they know in advance.